Adonai Hoshia, Melech Yaneinu v'yom kareinu. Adonai Hoshia, Melech Yaneinu v'yom kareinu. Adonai Hoshia, Melech Yaneinu v'yom kareinu. Baruchu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Hi everyone. Shana Tova. 40 days and 40 nights. That's how long many of us think that Noah's flood lasted. It's not quite true. That is how long it rained. Then the water subsides for 150 days. There are another couple of months of more subsiding. The ark hangs out on the top of some mountains for a bit. Noah sends birds to check for dry land. When all is said and done, Noah is in the ark for a full year. A full year. I've been thinking a lot about Noah lately, stuck in his ark with his immediate family and his many, many pets, his pod, if you will. Are we like Noah, though? On the one hand, we've been going through this pandemic a lot longer than his time on the ark. But on the other hand, we haven't been through anything like Noah was. He experienced the complete destruction of the earth and all its inhabitants due to a climate disaster. For us, for now anyway, it's just a global pandemic. But it's hard not to see some parallels between his experience and ours. What was it like for Noah the day God said it was time to board the ark? Was it like when you realized that you couldn't take that trip you were planning? Or that your wedding needed to be postponed indefinitely? When you realized that you were just hired as your child's homeschool teacher for zero pay and with no real qualifications? Or when it sunk in that you would be making a Pesach Seder alone? Do you ask the 4 questions when there's nobody there to hear them? The answer is yes. 40 days and 40 nights of unrelenting torrential rain. 11 months of fear, scrambling to keep ourselves afloat. Studies show that people are having more difficulty sleeping, are experiencing more anxiety and depression. I am worried about you. I'm worried about me. I'm worried about all of us. I'm worried about our physical and mental health. And I'm also worried about what this pandemic is doing to our hearts. Like Noah, our primary goal at first was survival. He built a physical ark. Some of our boundaries were physical too, distance between us and others. We also built walls around our hearts. How else to get through it? While we're wiping down our groceries with bleach, wondering if our job would be there next week, worrying that the guy at the supermarket with his mask below his nose was going to kill us. It was so much to hold. And what about now? We're still on the ark, but we're not where we were last year. At this time, I was in a Shalhevet classroom alone, with the door closed, mask on, grateful I could at least join my voice with the other clergy again after 7 months of singing to a screen in my dining room. Look at us now. So yes, we're still on the ark, but with gratitude to God and science, we have moved forward. I think about Noah on that ark for all that time. God could have made it so that the flood waters receded as quickly as they had swelled. But imagine what that would have been like for Noah. It would have been so intense to go directly from the unrelenting assault of the rain to the shock of the new reality. His heart wouldn't have been able to handle it. He needed the time on the ark to prepare himself to leave. Now, I'm not suggesting that the reason we are still stuck on our own COVID arks is because God is doing this to us on purpose. But since we are here, how do we make sure that we're using this time to move ourselves forward spiritually? That we're preparing ourselves to not only re-enter the world, but re-enter better, stronger, more thoughtful, and more awake. It's time to bring some of our walls down, and the High Holy Days are made just for that purpose. Our annual prying open of the heart feels more important than ever. And we have some tools to help us. Over the course of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we'll recite a prayer called Unetanet Tokef, best known, partly thanks to Leonard Cohen, for the deeply troubling section which asks, who will live and who will die? Who by water? Who by fire? Who by plague? Who by sword? It's hard not to feel the weight of this prayer every year, but especially right now as fires and storms and violence and disease rage in so many corners of our country and world. This prayer pushes us to recognize the fragility of life and how much is outside of our control. And then it ends with a phrase, Utshuva, utfila, utzdaka, ma'avirin et roa hagzera. Tshuva, repentance or return, tefillah, prayer, and tzedakah, charity, justice. These three tools have the potential of pushing aside the harshness of a decree. Not the decree itself. They're not a magic wand changing our history or our fate. But perhaps they can mitigate some experiences, the impact of some experiences, such as the one we have all been enduring for 18 months. Tshuva. We often translate tshuva as repentance, and that is part of it. Tshuva is the gift that reminds us we can be better, that growth is part of life, that we can be different, we can change. But this year, to focus only on sin or mistakes feels like it misses the point. The root of tshuva is the same as the word for return, lashuv. In the act of tshuva, we seek to return to ourselves. Dr. Erica Brown writes the following in her book, Return, Daily Inspiration for the Days of Awe. Rabbi Jonah of Gerona called repentance a sanctuary, a place to escape the intensity of sin. It is also the place to embrace the strength needed to fight our hardest inner battles and our stubborn resistance to change. She continues, by calling repentance a sanctuary, Rabbi Jonah transformed an act into a space we can step into and know that we are home and we are safe. We have returned to our essential selves, the people we like best. Tshuva is hard. The process of self-reflection can feel daunting, especially when the stresses of the pandemic have made it difficult to be the best version of ourselves. Relationships that need repair? Check. Struggling with things like patience or compassion? Absolutely. So what a powerful idea Brown is bringing. That this holy work of self-examination, tshuva, is not an act, but a space we can step into, that we are home and that we are safe. Imagine the healing, the love, the wholeness that tshuva might bring. Tool number 2, tefillah. There's a halakha, a Jewish law, that says we should only pray in a place that has a window. Did you know there was a window on Noah's Ark? It was how he sent off the birds when he wanted to know if it was safe to leave the ark. First, he sent a raven, which came back. Noah understood from this that the raven hadn't found a place to land and stay. The waters were still too high. He sent a dove, which came back with an olive branch, which is a better sign. He sent another dove, which didn't return. He took this to mean that it had found safety and that he too could leave the ark. It must have taken a lot for him to send that first bird. Hope in the face of the complete unknown. Then it came back, devastating. And yet he was willing to try again and again. Each of those birds was a prayer. For us to pray as Noach did in those moments, we must reveal to ourselves our deepest wishes, to send them out into the world with the faith that there will be land. In prayer, we ask a question, and we listen carefully for the answer. These high holy days, find your window. Send out your prayer. Then, even if it's not clear whether anyone or anything has heard it, send another. To pray in this way is an act of vulnerability. In the face of uncertainty, we act with hope. Tzedakah, charity, justice. The thing about that window on the ark is that it also brings the outside world in. Before the flood, Noach was not concerned with the brokenness around him. The Torah tells us Noach walked with God. And the commentary, Rabbi Yitzchak Abarvanel, explains that this means Noach didn't engage the people of his time at all. There was corruption and a devaluing of human life and widespread theft and so much more that he just wasn't paying attention to. And I don't imagine that Noach looked out the window of his ark much at the beginning of the flood either. It might have been too difficult to attend to his own distress and also to witness the loss of life outside. But when it got quiet, after the rain stopped, Noach needed time to prepare his heart to go back into the world. Like it or not, we have also been given an extended period of preparation. While, please God, we will be able to leave soon, let us use this time wisely. I imagine that when Noach did finally leave the ark, with all of that time that he had spent, he took in what was lost and what had been destroyed. But he was also open to what was breathtakingly beautiful. As we take steps already, some small, some bigger, toward leaving our arks, let us recognize the pain and the loss. But let us also hold on to those moments, and there are so many moments of beauty and of connectedness. I'd like to share just one with you for my own experience. I didn't leave the house much for many, many months. My partner, Sarah, was working in the hospitals as a physician, encountering COVID all of the time, and we were terrified. There was so much none of us knew, including what would happen if a 3-month-old would get sick. And so we stayed home. One of our dearest friends would come over and visit and would stay outside of our window in the front, mainly with the window closed, and would just try and talk to us and interact with Noah, who absolutely adores this friend. And then we felt like it was okay to have someone over. And this friend came into our home for the first time in I don't even know how many months. And I watched as Noah ran over to her and just gave her the biggest hug. And in that moment, I felt loss and the sadness of all that we had missed. But mostly, I felt joy, I felt love, and I felt hope. Tonight, as we start to prepare for these next steps and eventually leaving the ark, may we begin to stretch open our hearts. May we look inward, look upward, and look outward. Let us use these high holy days to prepare so that when it is finally time to leave the ark, we do so stronger, more aware, and more compassionate than when we entered. Shana Tova.
There is freedom within. There is freedom without. Try to catch the deluge in a paper cup. There's a battle ahead. Many battles are lost, but you'll never see the end of the road while you're traveling with me. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, they come to build a wall between us. We'll know they won't win. Now I'm towing my car. There's a hole in the roof. My possessions are causing me suspicion, but there's no proof. In the paper today, tales of war and of ways, but you turn right over to the TV page. Hey now, hey.